Hello everybody, Jason Andera, Midco Sports Network, and Darren Tipton of Adrenaline Fundraising, who does a great job with all the volleyball programs across the state, and we appreciate your knowledge and perspective on the state tournament, and he's here to help break down the SoDak16, not the Sweet 16, not the round of 16, the SoDak16, and we're going to talk about Class AA. Now this class is a little different than the others in the fact that they are not reseeded. This is essentially the beginning of the state tournament.
Right, yeah, they play it out. I love that. And it starts Thursday night, and they'll just play it all the way through. So if there's an upset, it doesn't reseed, they just go. It's going to be fun to watch, and this is a class that, you know, we talked about before the year, this was going to be the class, the senior loaded. So many talented senior classes that have come up together, you know, with Stevens, Washington, Mitchell, Watertown, right? And the top teams last year, right? Harrisburg lost that really talented senior class. Yeah. Where would they be? But we expected this just to be a heavyweight fight all season, and it has been. But those seniors have carried the way in this class, and these next couple weeks, Thursday night, all the way through, you know, Saturday in the Premier Center are going to be some very good volleyball.
It's going to be crazy, and if you followed high school volleyball for the past couple of years, some very familiar names all across these 16 teams. But let's start with the 1-16 matchup where Rapid City Stevens has really had quite a season. For them to go through their gauntlet and only have one loss, pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, not only the AA teams they play with, you know, coming out here and playing 4 Sioux Falls schools and basically a 16-hour period, you know, 4 matches, and doing that, they, you know, went to a tournament at Cheyenne, played some of the top Wyoming schools as well. 30-1. This is a solid team. They won our initial, you know, our inaugural SummerSlam tournament, defeating Sioux Falls, Washington in the South Dakota Championship. So we knew they would be good. You know, and the names, like you said, are so familiar with Liz Schaefer, Kaya Watson, the only junior of the group, right? And then Phoebe Rossi is kind of the names that we know, all members of, you know, the Future 40 this summer. But then some of the names really need to know and will factor in if they want to win the next 4, right? And win that state championship. Marley Schneider, their senior setter, really, you know, kind of goes untalked about, unheard of one.
Really good.
She is very good, and you don't have the season they've had without a quality setter. So Marley's had a great year, and then Emily SoDak, I believe is how you pronounce it. I think she did not play last year, brought them back. I love her intensity, her attitude. Somebody jumped out to me right away this summer when they were at our tournament, and then watching her when they came here to Sioux Falls, I really love her. And this team plays so well together, right? They don't get up, they don't get down, right? They just keep playing, and the results of that 1-loss season with dropping a match to Washington, which I thought was not their best match of the year. They would tell you that. We expected that to be a closer match, but they knocked out O'Gorman, knocked out BSD schools. This is a solid team, and they deserve the #1 rank.
They are the #1 team. The number 16 seed is Sturgis. Sturgis only a couple wins against AA competition this year.
Yeah, and I believe Douglas is the only AA school. It's going to be, you know, tough for Sturgis. You know, 9 wins on the year. Just be tough for them to compete. And it was, you know, Stevens obviously beat them earlier in the year, and you know, it's a tough matchup for Sturgis.
All right, let's jump to that 8-9 matchup where we see Aberdeen Central coming as the 8th seed, Brookings as the 9th seed, a really tight one. Let's talk about Aberdeen Central first. This has kind of been a, I don't know, a pleasant surprise really for them to end up at 8.
Yeah, you know, we thought about it coming out of the summer that they'd be, quote, a rebuilding year, I'm sure, for them, and to be the 8th seed in a rebuilding year talks a lot about their program and how they've gotten better throughout the year. Don't play near as many matches as a lot of the schools. You know, you look with Stevens at over 32, Aberdeen Central has 18, but they had Brooklyn Kusler is probably the top name, you know, familiar name of South Dakota fans. She's a sophomore, you know, front row, just a real solid player. But Lexi LaFave and then Hermanson and Cassidy Gow are the seniors that have come out and really stepped up and helped bring along the underclassmen. They don't want to think of this as a rebuilding year, right? And they give that senior leadership, which is probably a big reason why the Golden Eagles have had the year that they've had and continue to progress and the 8th seed. And I guess if you look to the beginning of the year, that's maybe a little bit better than a lot of people thought they might be at.
And they take on number 9 Brookings, who they've got an outstanding setter and some really good players.
Yeah, you know, Brookings comes in 6 seniors. This is another dominant senior class. It's kind of been overshadowed by some of the other programs, but just a really good senior class. 10 more wins than they had last year, right? So the program's taken a big jump this year. You know, wins over Mitchell, Pier, Aberdeen Central this year, but also they're led by Michaela Jewett, who surpassed the 2,000 career assist mark this year, and then Kylie Tucker has 231 kills, their top front row player. Some of the other names, Reagan Weisbeck, Joanna Miller, Molly Stephenson are juniors that have kind of jumped in and replaced some of those rules. The other underclassmen that have meshed with the seniors, right, the senior dominated lineup, and they'll need to play really well for Brookings to knock off Aberdeen Central in advance.
All right, they 3-14 matchup now, an intra-city battle in Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls O'Gorman at 3, Lincoln at 14. Let's talk about the Knights first. These guys have been right there at the top with a new coach, Emily McCourt. They've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, this is a team that I think we knew would be solid. They've probably exceeded expectations. You never know coaching change, how well that's going to go over, but they are talented, athletically talented. Bergen Riley, sophomore setter, one of the tops in the state, has had a great year. Emma Ronsing, one of the top athletes in South Dakota, junior outside hitter, has continued what she's done on the basketball court to the volleyball court. Had a great year for them, their top front row player. And then Courtney Brood, somebody I think that in their, you know, the matches where they played their best has had her best matches. So somebody who takes a little bit of that pressure off Ronsing, and a name that we definitely, AA coaches know about her, but the rest of the state needs to be, you know, aware. And then some names that we haven't heard as much about. Jamie Renshaw is a senior. BS made the move this year from, I believe, from setter. The back row has done a really solid job for them. You know you don't win the matches they've won without a solid defense, right, to go with the offense. And then we have to talk about Bergen Riley is an 8th grade setter that plays. When you're an 8th grader playing at the AA level, there has to be some talent. But it'll be interesting to see how she handles, right, just the brighter lights of postseason. So O'Gorman, great year so far with Emily's first season, and you know, they've knocked off Sioux Falls, Washington twice. So you know they're serious, and they went to 5 with Rapid City Stevens, a great match, probably one of the better regular season matches in all of AA this year. So they have as much a chance as anybody.
All right, O'Gorman takes on the number 14 seed, Sioux Falls Lincoln. Tell us about the Patriots.
You know, Patriots, you know, playing with a lot of new faces this year, and you know, a fun young team to watch. The battles every single night. They did lose 2 times to O'Gorman during the regular season. Emily Ekstrom, sophomore libero, future 40 batch earlier this summer, and kind of the defensive leader for the Patriots. But a couple other names, you know, to remember: Allie Jameson, senior outside hitter. Summer Luchins is their senior setter, has been in that role now for a couple of years. And then Lexi Barbush, senior outside hitter. So, you know, a team that has knocked off Brookings, right? And Brookings is sitting there at the 8 or the 9 seed, I guess. And so they play the same schedule. It's just difficult because they have that mix of seniors returning mixed in with a lot of younger girls, and this is just a tough year with all of the balance and senior power in Class AA. It's been hard for them to pick up match wins, even though they've been competitive in so many matches. But a younger coming Sioux Falls Lincoln team.
All right, let's talk about Mitchell. This is a team that has really played together a long time. We know the names on Mitchell. Let's talk about the Colonels a little bit.
Yeah, they come in as a 6th seed. You know, they come in as a 6th seed this year. You know, they are led by Chelsea Brewster and Mac Miller, right? The big question with them we talked about before the year was, when will Mac Miller come back? How will it work when she comes back? So it's almost like they've played a couple different seasons, right? Pre-Miller, post-Miller, getting her back into shape, and now into game shape, right? And now she's there. And so a little bit of an odd season where you don't really know what Mitchell has, but one thing they do have is a ton of experience, right? Girls that have played together for a long, long time. Carly Herring, Mandy Schmidt, also names that you need to know. I think it goes through the front row with them. Miller, Brewster, and can teams take away both of them? If teams take away one, will the other one step up? And scary team is a 6 seed because of all the experience they have.
Yeah, I don't think they've peaked yet. They're kind of still working their way up that ladder, which is kind of scary for the rest of the state, and scary for Pierre, who has to play them on Thursday night.
Yeah, Pierre, you have that ESD battle here with Pierre being the 11th seed. Mitchell won the season, won the matchup during the season. Pierre's knocked off Brookings. They got beat by Brookings, Sioux Falls, Roosevelt. So some comparable teams. Younger team in Pierre. This could be a tough matchup, I think, because of the experience of Mitchell for the Lady Govs traveling to Mitchell.
All right, the 4-13 matchup in Watertown. We see the Arrows, who are really clicking. Now, speaking of teams that are really playing their best ball, Watertown is one of those teams.
Yeah, Watertown, another one of those teams. They are, senior laden. Okay, they're probably the surprise of the state tournament last year. They had Harrisburg on the ropes in the semifinals in the 5th set. And then they did the same thing to Sioux Falls, Washington in the 3rd, 4th place game. So you expected them to be there. What they haven't got is that big time win this year, right? Like they're there, they're in matches, they've defeated the teams that they're supposed to have defeated. They haven't had that big time win like they put the scare into everybody last year during the tournament. But they're led by Mariah Glory, Sophie Teets, front row, players that have been with the program now for a couple of years. Mackenzie Bisker, middle hitter, Megan Hagelin, and then Taylor Corey are some of their other top players. But Watertown, right, they've built, we talk about again, experience, but this is the most win for a Watertown team since 1997. First time they've been over 20 wins in a season since 97, and they're ESD champions. So no slouch. We know this is a good team, and everybody else in the postseason knows how good Watertown can be. Maybe that almost plays to their disadvantage because they're not, I don't know if they snuck up on anybody last year, but definitely everybody knows what kind of run they made last year, so they'll be ready for them. But solid team, just waiting for that first big-time win of the year.
All right, and they take on two-time defending champs, Renette Costain's Harrisburg Tigers.
Right. Back-to-back state champs. You talk about that loss. Just such a great, group of seniors last year. Rebuilding year for the Tigers, led by Brooklyn Bullwood, senior libero, really the anchor of that team, not only defensively, but as a whole. Some names you really need to know that have stepped in and played quite a bit for them. Haley Mertz, junior outside hitter, and then Abby Meester, freshman outside hitter, stepping in and playing for Harrisburg. In a rebuilding year, just a lot of new pieces, a new style than what they've played in the past, but they have that tradition, right? And girls know what they need to do to step up. It's just now it's this crew's turn, right, to step up and play. The tradition, right, is a scary thing, and they've been in some matches. They have, some wins. They've continued to get better. Coach Costain and their staff do such a great job. That's why you win back-to-back state titles. So we'll overlook them, but different look for Harrisburg than it has been the past few years.
Yes, it's going to be a little tougher this year for the Tigers, but they've got a chance against Watertown. Let's talk about the 5-12 matchup. The Huron Tigers, one of the shorter teams in the field, maybe the shortest team in the field, but they get it done.
Yeah, I think something is a credit to Coach Budenhagen and the Huron staff is everybody you talk to talks about how hard they play, right? They don't make mistakes, how they hustle, how they outwork you, right? And the coach, you'd be really proud of that. Now, would you like them all to be 6'3" and work that hard? Yeah, you would. They don't have that, and they are, the shortest team in AA. They've been the shortest team in every match they played this year. You know what? I think that plays into just how hard they play. But don't let the lack of size fool you. They have some very talented volleyball players, skill-wise, right? And they have to be as close of a team as anybody. They're led by Holly Neas, their senior hitter, Haven Hines, junior libero, who I believe is already past the 2,000 dig mark earlier this season, right? She's been in the lineup for a long time. Tenley Budenhagen is their sophomore setter, working into a new role, has done a great job this year for them. And then Isabel Ford and Kylie Overbay, upperclassmen that will have to continue to play well. They have played well, right? Will have to continue to play well no matter how far Huron goes in the postseason. But with Shelley's teams, they're not going to be outworked. And again, they're not going to give you anything. You're going to have to take it from them, and you can live with that at the end of the day, I think.
Well, the team that's going to try to take it from them, Brandon Valley, heading on the road. Didn't have success against Huron earlier this year, but they what do they bring to the table?
Well, this is a young group, all right, that's improved. One of the younger teams in Class AA, probably along with Harrisburg. But they're underclassmen little, Avery Myers, junior setter, Ella Simonson, junior libero, a couple of their key players. But Bella Steffen is a name that we really need to focus on and we'll be hearing about the next couple of years. She's a freshman, middle hitter that gets some time. The Lynx, really have been up and down. Watched them their first match early on against Sioux Falls, Washington, gave Washington all they could handle, right? They've had some up and down moments, and a lot of times that comes with a younger team, but don't be mistaken, the Lynx have some very talented players, and you put that talent together on one night, they can give anybody fits.
All right, let's move on to the 2:15 matchup. We've talked about O'Gorman, we've talked about Rapid City Stevens, but I think Sioux Falls, Washington belongs in that same group for real title contenders this year. Tell us about the Warriors.
Yeah, first of all, Washington and Coach Schroeder's done such a good job at the program now. I think it is his third year. But they continue to get better every year. A little bit different this year with how experienced they were coming back. The names that we're going to say are names a lot of people have heard, and we've heard them in multiple sports. Lily Bartling, Smaya Jamie, PK, background Kong, are some of their superstars, if you will. But I like their role players. I mean, on a lot of teams, they're not role players, but Alyssa Elton, front row and back, and I think she's kind of the vocal leader, and I believe she is the vocal leader of this team, and kind of positive, picks them up, gets them out of ruts when they're in ruts. Peyton Reimerson, libero in the back row, is one of my favorite players. Love watching her play and communicate, and just does whatever it takes, which is the definition of that role, right? She solidifies their defense, and then Sydney Shetman, very talented sophomore that works in with those upperclassmen in the front row. They have talent. Most wins in the program since at least 2000, and this is a team that has been 1, 2, or 3 all year. We said this would be a fight all season, and they've proven that. They are a very solid team, and when they're rolling well, they are as good, not better than anybody, right? Which they showed with their defeat of Stevens earlier, okay? But they're right there with O'Gorman and Stevens. Any one of them could probably be the one seed.
Yeah, it's really hard to delineate between those teams at the top. They draw Spearfish in the first round, who has to make the trip across the state to play at Washington.
Yeah, they lost Washington earlier, were swept in August, very early on, but their key wins at Sturgis, Christian. Yeah. This is going to be a tough battle for Spearfish, team that's plugging in some new pieces as well, and making that trip across the state. I think an overmatched Spearfish team heading to Sioux Falls on Thursday night.
All right, let's talk about that 7-10 matchup where Sioux Falls, Roosevelt, they've got a couple of key seniors, but really a junior-dominated group who have some potential.
Yeah, Tatum Koima, junior libero, who's had a very solid year, especially early on, one of the top liberos in the state. Leah Colts is one of their senior middle hitters. And then Shannon Nelson has done a good job for them this year as well, another senior right side. But Aaron, actually Denovan is a name that Coach mentioned as being kind of the one that holds everything together and their true leader on the team. Another senior, maybe not the most talented volleyball player, but the leader and inspiration of that team. So it'll be important that she has a good match on Thursday night. And then some of their younger role players, Tatum Wilson, Jasmine Greer, they've been getting more and more time as the season's progressed and mixing in and just taking more points and more minutes. A couple of those talented underclassmen that you talked about, and an improved year for Roosevelt that missed the state tournament last year. They lost that 2 years ago, lost a huge senior class last year. Was their rebuilding year. Getting better and better and better, and Coach talks about them doing a better job of finishing here this last month, and finishing so important in tight matches like they'll have in the postseason.
Well, that could be a dangerous team if they make it into the state tournament, but in order to get to the state tournament, They have to take out the Rapid City Central Cobblers.
Right. Rapid City Central, only 3 seniors on the team. Again, make that trek across the state. Key wins for them over Lincoln earlier this year and Brandon Valley. Rihanna Nez is a junior middle hitter. This is a junior-sophomore dominated team. Ramsey Deming, sophomore setter. We talk about young setters. How will they do? But this is a team that is improved this year. Is still a year away. Next year should be one of the top teams and take another step, but this will be tough just because of their lack of experience, but an improved Rapid City Central team than over what they have been in the past.
And that's another tough road trip as they make the trek across the state to take on Sioux Falls Roosevelt. All right, Darren, time to make some picks to see who's going to make it to the state tournament. Stevens and Sturgis. I mean, Stevens has been dominant all year. I assume that's the pick.
Yeah, I think they move on. I think they move on pretty easy.
Then they will play the winner of the 8-9 matchup, Aberdeen Central taking on Brookings.
You know, one thing about this, Brookings won the regular season matchup. This time it's that was at home. This time it's in Aberdeen. That does play a factor, especially AA. I'm going to go with the 9 seed. I'm going to go with Brookings for the simple fact they have the 6 seniors. This is their year. A lot more experience, maybe court time, though Aberdeen Central probably has a more talented underclassman. It'll help them play in Golden Eagle Arena, but I'm going to pick Brookings to advance.
All right, the Bobcats are the pick. Let's talk about the 3-14 O'Gorman-Lincoln, 2 teams that know each other well, but this O'Gorman team, I think they've really showed their stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing with O'Gorman, they, maybe a suspect match way back at the very beginning of the year. They played Roosevelt and handled pretty good. They haven't not shown up, right? I mean, they haven't had just a really down match. So I think O'Gorman and their upperclassmen athletic talent just too much for Lincoln.
All right. Mitchell takes on Pierre. Mitchell down the stretch, I mean, they're kind of like a 500 team down the stretch. They're still trying to get together. Can they pull it out against Pierre?
Right. I think they pull it out against Pierre. I think too much experience. I think having this little bit of time, get off their legs, regroup a little bit, these few days off will help. And they're seniors, right? They know Mac Miller's been back for a while now. It's time. They know what plan they're going to go with, and it's time for those girls who have a ton of postseason experience to step up. I think they take care of Pierre and they move on. This class has been aiming for this year for quite a while. Okay,
the 2-time defending champs, do they see the end of the road in their title defense taking on Watertown?
Yeah, I think Watertown has handled Harrisburg a couple times this year. Just too much inexperience, too much experience for Watertown. Very solid defensive. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're just a solid team. And I just think it's too much for Harrisburg this year, replacing too much inexperience. And Watertown is one of the top teams in the state.
All right, and Shelley Buttonhagen's group in Huron will take on the Brandon Valley Lynx.
Right. I think it shows Brandon Valley hasn't been as solid when they've traveled away from home. Sometimes you expect that with a younger team. Huron, again, we talk about how hard they play, and they just don't give you free points. Right. And they pride themselves on making it to the state tournament and just being a pain in the rear for whoever they come up against, right? They take pride in that. I just don't think they overlook Brandon Valley, and Huron moves on.
All right, and Washington Spearfish, I mean, probably the Warriors, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Warriors. Again, we talked about this team a little bit like we talked about Miller in Class A, but what I look for the Warriors is, do they come out fast? Do they take care of business right away and just leave no doubt, right? Do they have that focus that propels them into next week's state tournament? That's going to be the key for them, is 4 matches of focus for the Warriors and playing as great as they can be. But yeah, they move past Spearfish pretty easy.
All right, and then we've got Rapid City Central, who moves across the state to take on Sioux Falls Roosevelt.
Yeah, I just think the experience of Rapid City Central and Roosevelt's been a solid team. Yeah. Again, they have some solid seniors, but they're not senior dominated like some of the other schools, and they have played, and they have some quality wins. They've gone to Minnesota and played a tough schedule there. Sioux Falls Roosevelt is a good team. I just think they're too much for Rapid City Central this year. Next year, maybe a different story, but this year I think it's Sioux Falls Roosevelt getting back to the state tournament.
There you have it. Darren Tipton's picks. You can email him directly if he didn't pick your team. No, I'm just kidding. But you can hit us up on social media. We'd love to start a conversation about high school volleyball Always love to have the conversation going. We will be following this highlights and reaction all the way through the championship games. Darren, thank you for your time today.
Yep, absolutely. It was great.
All right. And like I said, we'll have coverage throughout the next couple of weeks. Stay with us on Midco SN for more volleyball coverage.